Coming up on Theater Talk.
Charles, does your heart ever sink when you think, oh my God, I have to see another Hamlet again?
Well, I mean, yeah, sometimes.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation. From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
So, Michael, we've reached the midpoint of the Broadway and off-Broadway season.
Yes, we've had a very, very busy fall on Broadway, and we are going to go through some of the hits and misses with our panel of experts. We are joined tonight by Elisabeth Vincentelli, my friend and colleague from the New York Post. Welcome to Theater Talk. Charles Isherwood from the New York Times. Welcome to Theater Talk, Charles.
Thank you.
And Jesse Green, who used to be a pundit for us for many years.
Well, he still is.
Yes, but now he's a proper theater critic at New York Magazine, just at the time when the magazine is kind of unraveling, isn't it, Jesse?
How so?
Well, didn't you just announce that it's becoming a monthly or a quarterly or something like that?
I think we're publishing every decade, once a decade. But I'm still going to be in it every week. I don't care how often it comes out.
You're still going to write every week, right? All right, guys, I want to start with the critic-proof event, really, not even a play, an event of the fall season, which was Betrayal with Daniel Craig and Rachel Weisz and, what was his name, Timothy
Spall.
Rafe Spall, right, yeah.
What do you mean not a play?
Well, it's not.
Last I checked, Betrayal was actually a play written by
hold on, though, Jesse, but don't
a real
you feel
playwright.
that it's produced by Scott Rudin, but don't you feel he made it more of event theater than an actual play? And did you like this production? Isn't it just, you know, come see stars and pay $500 to see them, and your opinion as critics is immaterial because the show was sold out before you got there?
Our opinion is immaterial, absolutely.
On everything.
But, yes, I was going to say, but not just on event plays.
Right.
But just because it's an event doesn't mean it isn't also a play with things to admire and things to admire less.
Well, what did you not like about it? It seems you've got some reservations.
I thought it was somewhat becalmed. I guess I would say, although I thought that Rafe Spall was excellent.
Elizabeth, your opinion on Daniel Craig and Rachel Weisz? Were they the sexiest couple on Broadway this past season?
No, but then at the same time, I am not the biggest Pinter fan. I think he's incredibly overrated. Just the whole Pinter pause, just like it means nothing. It really means nothing. It's just, it's become shorthand for, I have no idea what's going on, but it sounds really cool and dangerous slightly. I don't really know what's going on. It's just incredibly overrated. But that said, this particular production was kind of like a low boil. But again, Mike Nichols, also incredibly overrated. So you have like a kind of supernova conflagration of
overratedness.
Overratedness, which, and then people are surprised, they're like, oh, it didn't really do it for me. Why should you be surprised? It's like an incredibly flat playwright and a completely overrated director.
Boy, you're not going to any Scott Rudin lunches anytime soon.
I think that's a thumbs down.
I mean, it's fine for what it is, but don't expect something great because it's not going to be great.
Right. Well,
now, Elizabeth, get off the fence.
Charles, is she right about Pinter?
No, I think it is actually quite a good play. No Man's Land is another story.
It's gimmicky.
But this production, it's funny you called it becalmed. I thought it was a little bit overwrought, actually, at times. I would want a few more meaningful pauses in that production. It seemed very much on the surface, highly emotional in a way that I don't expect a Pinter play to be. And for me, it's sort of pushing all the subtext onto the surface of a Pinter play sort of, destroys it. There were some scenes I thought it was like a Mike Nichols play being done up there.
Yeah, like a Neil Simon play.
Neil Simon play, yeah.
Directed by Mike Nichols, yeah. There was, didn't you find it a little sort of hokey, some of the pushing for the humor, a little too much?
No.
God, you have no taste.
I guess that's why I made me the critic.
That's right.
The first requirement.
Do you guys even care, though, on the larger issue? With all these celebrities coming, and they've been in a lot of plays that you guys have been sort of cool to, like Tom Hanks with Lucky Guy, certainly with this one. Does it bother you at all that producers are actively trying to diminish your power? Elizabeth?
I don't say like that way at all. I mean, the thing is with a lot of stars, not all, but a lot of them, there's a reason they're stars. A lot of them have incredible charisma. And when they're in the room, you really feel it. And you can't buy that. You have it or you don't. It's really unfair that way. It's Julianne Moore, when she made her stage debut, she did not have it, but I think Tom Hanks had it. And well, yes, it does make a difference.
But you know, one instance where it didn't make a difference is you have Ethan Hawke in Macbeth, a star
He's
of
never had any charisma.
Well, all right, but what I'm saying the critics do matter there because they hated it so much. I don't know how well it's doing.
Well, from what I hear, it's very easy to get seats. Let's put it
I mean,
way.
I enjoyed it. It's fascinating production, but from a certain perspective. But
Oh, it's
I'm just saying
fascinating, all right.
the critics can make a difference.
Well, did you like this production, Jesse?
No, I gave it a pretty negative review.
Yeah, right.
I respected I thought it was visually fascinating.
Right.
A friend of mine said they wish they could see the Verdi Opera on that set. They'd have a very nice evening. But the actual production that we saw didn't come up to the level of the design.
Except John Glover was fantastic.
Did you see it, Charles?
Did you?
No, I'm happy to hear seats are available because I haven't yet gotten one.
The concept of the witches being women, I mean, John Glover's a wonderful actor, but, you know, running around with those beanbag breasts of his, it was all very weird.
Yes,
It's
it
just also bugged me, actually, I have to say, but like, I think if guys could stop hogging all the roles on Broadway this season, we have the two all-male Shakespeares, and now we have men playing the witches. I mean, come on, like, do you have to play everything?
Well,
Like,
You
is there
had your
anything
Julius
left?
Caesar.
You had your all-female Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Where
was
the hell
off
was
Broadway. That was like one show off Broadway. You can't compare to, like. This
Hey, I go to Hooters,
high-profile.
and that's all women.
All the time.
Is that something different?
When have you been to Hooters?
No, sorry, that was completely
Charles,
false.
we have had
Was
a
that
lot
at
of...
BAM?
Yeah, Hooters at BAM. It's
Hooters at BAM.
part of the next
I can
wave.
see
Under the radar.
Ivo Van Hove doing it there. A version thereof.
I would be there in a second, you know.
I'm sure
If there's subtitles and Hooters, I'm going to be all over it.
Charles, we've had a lot of Shakespeare, maybe too much Shakespeare recently. And as Elizabeth said, we had the all-male productions of Richard III and Twelfth Night with Mark Rylance and Stephen Fry. Did these work for you, these Richard III? And
Oh, very much. I think it was really one of the highlights of the entire year. Mark Rylance is such a phenomenal actor. At this point, what more do we say about him? He's so versatile and amazing. And I like the original practices gimmick with the candles dripping onto the stage.
Yes.
I actually like the Richard III, which many people did. I thought they played it as a sort of rollicking black comedy.
yeah, it plays more like a comedy than...
And it was great fun. And Twelfth Night was, you know, Twelfth Night is a play that we've seen so many times that it's sort of like, am I really going to endure this one more time? But once again, I thought it was a pretty charming production.
I actually found that the rollickingness of the Richard III exposed some of the faults of the play so severely that I didn't enjoy it for that reason. Whereas in the Twelfth Night, I felt the original practices, the kind of falseness, the kind of artifice of all that, made it much more emotional for me. So the comedy was more emotional and the tragedy was more ridiculous.
Now, I know, Elizabeth, from talking to you at the office, you've sort of headed up to here with Shakespeare. Are you Shakespeare'd out, and why?
Well, this season, yes. I mean, this season has been a kind of perfect storm of Shakespeareness. Because in addition to the one we've mentioned, there was also a Midsummer Night's Dream at the Julie Taymor.
Julie Taymor.
Theater for New
Your old
Audiences,
friend.
Her comeback after Spider-Man.
Come back after the your Warmish campaign. And there was the Julius Caesar. There's been like, just a ton, and we have
Two
more.
Romeo and Juliets, let's not forget.
Of course, two Romeo and Juliet. I mean, it's been just really, and so on the one hand, there's been some really good productions in that lot, and several that I've liked a lot. But it just feels that we're not seeing any other classic plays, and other classic playwrights are really falling by the wayside because all we see now is like classic equals Shakespeare, and it's really, really frustrating.
That's a good point, though,
Really.
Charles. Does your heart ever sink when you think, oh my God, I have to see another Hamlet again?
Well, I
Mine
mean,
does.
yeah, sometimes. But, you know, a good Shakespeare production, or a great one, is going to totally, you know, recharge your batteries. And
Like the
I think it's a
Twelfth Night, yeah.
coincidence. I don't think that, you know,
No,
it's
yeah,
going to
it
be
was a-
Shakespeare from here on out. And, you know, you see revivals of Webster plays or Thomas Kidd, and, you know.
But rarely, though. I would love
Very
to see.
rarely,
I would love to
but-
see something like The White Devil, which I think is a wonderful play that no one does those. Where do they do
I
these?
saw it in London years ago. It wasn't so great. It was no Shakespeare, let's put it that way.
I missed it. Well, now, what did you all think of Julie Taymor's Midsummer Night's Dream?
I thought it was respectable, visually beautiful. I mean, some of her tricks are by now familiar, of course, but you know, it's not a Midsummer Night's Dream that anyone is going to remember for the phenomenal acting, I don't think.
I
except
thought when the
a few
spider
exceptions.
came down from the flies, That was just incredible.
Well, you know,
Very self-referential.
well, you know, I'm a great admirer of Julie's, despite our bashing of Spider-Man relentlessly. But the one thing I think you can fault her on is she really doesn't deal with actors. She
No,
gets
it was,
stylized.
it was a kind of wooden
Yes
production.
and no. There were some really good performances in that play. There were some really bad ones, like really, really bad. I think the gap between the good performances and the
Yeah.
bad ones was kind of stunning, actually. It runs such a. I mean, it's rare to see a production with the range between the really good performances, and I would mention.
Who
Catherine
did you
Hunt-
like?
Oh,
Yeah.
Catherine Hunter, I thought
Very
was
good.
absolutely fantastic.
As Puck.
It was a great year for her. She was also in Kafka's Monkey. I mean, it's just she's absolutely incredible.
A very mannered
you
pup.
pro-
very-
And the
very-
young lovers were so appallingly bad that including
Name 'em.
including one of them who I think is the son of the artistic director at oops so they were just
I'm
they
sure
were
that's
just
the first
awful.
time nepotism has
It's
reared its ugly head
I
in the theater
I know, it's
industry.
just
Jesse,
unthinkable.
You're very close to Julie. You've profiled her a lot. You know her.
I mean, because she hasn't sued me?
That
If
qualifies.
that qualifies, then yes.
But you've seen her work. I mean,
Yes.
you know her well. And she doesn't does she really deal with actors? Does she
No,
know how
no,
to?
no. I often say that she gets better performances out of masks than she gets out of people, and the people end up being wooden. But you know, as Elisabeth said, if you hire the right actors, that doesn't matter because they know what to do. And I would also point to Tina Benko.
Tina Benko was
Yes.
terrific.
But if you're going to hire very young kids who are really still in school and not give them any direction as to how to perform, it's really not their fault if they don't show up well compared to
I
the
was
others.
actually frustrated because the off-Broadway Romeo and Juliet, I was really looking forward to seeing Elizabeth Olsen in that, and I think she's a young actress who's doing Romeo and Juliet, and unfortunately was working with the director who had no idea what she was doing. The director, I mean, didn't know what she was doing, and I felt like there was a good Juliet lurking somewhere in there, but she didn't have anybody to tell her, and she doesn't. And Elizabeth Olsen doesn't have the experience to figure it out on her own, like Tina Benko would.
Yes.
She's very young, and I really wish that this experience. I mean, that show was trashed by everybody, deservedly. It was terrible, but I really wish this is not going to turn Elizabeth Olsen off the theater, because I would love to see her again. I think she has a great presence, and again, that's what you can't buy, and she has it.
Yeah, she sure
and
does.
someone needs to get it out of her, but.
Well,
They have
they're
to
not
be
going to
an
get it out of
experience.
somebody in 6 weeks. This is part of the problem.
Well, yeah.
A lot of the greats who became great and don't need assistance from directors anymore did so because when they were
Right.
coming up, they would work for months on something, or they'd be in a repertory company, or you know. The
Right.
good
Well,
old days.
speaking of which, two greats who did come up that way, who worked in rep companies, who worked with great actors, Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart Charles, also in rep now on Broadway in No Man's Land and Waiting for Godot.
Or Godot, as they say.
Yeah, what is the correct?
The British say Godot.
And what do you say?
It's British. I get confused now.
Well,
It comes out every which way.
as
I said
Elizabeth,
Godot.
Yes, that's
yeah, how do you
Elizabeth-
say it en
French
français, Elizabeth?
Godot.
Good,
Yes,
Godot.
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 So I would say. So what did you think of Waiting for Godot, Charles?
I'm not even going to attempt that pronunciation. I thought this was disappointing because, you know, they're both very fine actors, but it was a very shticky, big, let's play to the comedy approach to the play. I'm beginning to think that I don't ever want to see that play in a Broadway house. I think it does not really lend itself to that kind of atmosphere.
I would agree with that.
That said, you know, Ian McKellen is brilliant, you know, in particular, and The No Man's Land, he was also brilliant. That, I have to agree, was one of those less to this than meets the eye Pinner's play, or ear Pinner plays.
Really? Why do you say that? Because I always thought No Man's Land was sort of an underappreciated Pinter play, but you think
Have you seen it lately?
no?
who was it who told us
I
that
mean,
he
it
thought?
has one, well, you know, the premiere with Ralph Richardson and
Is legendary.
John Gielgud.
yeah. You know, I think that the mystique surrounding that probably has something to do with it. This is the first time I'd seen it, and I was sort of with it for a while, and then eventually, you know, I sort of flatlined, and
Someone who was on this show said that they thought that Pinter was drunk when he wrote it, and
I think it was Ian McKellen
yes.
and Patrick Stewart. They said that it said it's about drunks, and
Well,
it seems like Pinter was drunk when he
And
was
to
writing.
me, that was a liability to
If
the
you were
script.
going to eliminate all the plays that were written by drunk playwrights from the canon, there would be none left.
No, not written by drunk playwrights, written while the playwright was drunk.
Even then.
Yeah.
Even then.
All of Tennessee Williams,
Oh,
gone.
gone.
all,
Yeah.
of all of Stephen Sondheim, another one.
not going there.
No,
We're not
no,
going there.
that's not making air. honey.
He has said
himself.
himself.
So would you stop
said so
defending
himself.
Stephen? Your God, Stephen Sondheim. He has said in that 7,000-page Frank Rich New York magazine
he was drunk while he wrote it?
He drinks while he writes. He's
That
admitted
he's
this.
never written a single song while not, I don't know, drunk,
I
but
think he's sipping whiskey. Let's not say. I don't
without
think he's-
drinking.
Yes,
Without
all right,
drinking.
all
Not
right.
necessarily
I stand.
staggered.
But where were we?
Well,
I don't know. Shakespeare.
We were talking about. We were talking
Shakespeare
about.
No Man's
Sondheim
Land.
gods.
We were on to the other bloated.
As
you don't like? Did you not like No Man's Land?
I did like No Man's Land.
I did too, actually.
I can understand Charles's opinion. It just wasn't the way it struck me. And I also thought the opportunity to see McKellen do those two contrasting roles, his superb carriage and radically different way of holding everything about watching him on stage is a joy and a lesson.
Does he overshadow Patrick Stewart in these plays, Elizabeth?
I
Ian
think so,
McKellen?
yeah.
He does.
Well, because Patrick Stewart ends up playing the straight man, so to speak, in both shows, so it's a little.
It's hard not to
little-
be overshadowed, but I mean,
Yeah.
It's a little
the
bit
plays
of a
were
problem.
in a way overshadowed too, but who cares?
Yeah.
Although Billy Crudup was, I thought, pretty great.
Could we talk about a show that Charles quite liked, A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder?
Yes, I think it's an Stop seething, dear. Your turn will come.
This is based on the same source material as Kind Heart and Coronet.
Yes, which is a movie I've always loved.
And Jefferson Mays plays how many characters?
He plays Alec Guinness.
He plays 8. I think all but one doomed. I think it's a really charming show. It sort of brings back the operetta, which is something you're not going to have coming around anytime soon again, I think. And I thought it was just delightfully funny. His performance is very, it's one of those true tour de forces where he's off stage for 30 seconds and comes on as another character. I had a great time. I gather Elizabeth did not.
Sorry, but I was dozing just hearing about it.
All right, Elizabeth, put the knife in.
I love operetta. It's really one of my favorite musical genres, and I was really looking forward to this particular show, also liking the source story. I haven't read the book, but I also like the movie that was also pulled from the book, but I was so bored. I was so bored because the problem, I think there's a huge structural problem with the show. Gentlemen Guides to Love and Murder. Murder takes up the entire first act. Most of the murders take place in the entire, and then the love is in the second act. And you have a completely, the balance is out of whack in that show because Jefferson Mays is pretty much dies 7 times in the first act, and it goes very fast, and it becomes so sticky and tiresome that you just keep waiting for him to run across the stage again, sweating, and you start wondering about the costume people working the little, like.
You really are
little
making it
bees.
sound boring, Elizabeth. Stop talking.
Wow.
Another
think-
show
It's
overpraised.
just-
But
I think people should see the show. I mean, if you're an Anglophile like me, I think.
Oh,
it's
well,
fine.
there you go. Okay, that's it.
Jesse, would you like to?
It's very easy for me to thread that needle. I mean, there's quite a lot of space in between.
Yes.
true.
For me, I was
Can
in
you give us a more
between.
measured opinion? Please?
I thought it was a lot of fun. I felt it was a little twee, which is its raison d'etre, but a little of that goes a long
Jefferson
way.
Mays.
Define-
Little of Jefferson Mays goes a long way as far as I'm concerned.
A little Englishness goes a long way.
But I think it's
No,
the
I
kind
can
of
never have
show
enough.
I would like to encourage. Sorry, Elizabeth. I want people who are interested in trying new ways of telling stories or old ways of telling stories to have a place on Broadway. And I think it's fun enough that people should give it a
I
shot.
do second that. I like the idea of the show, and I like that it's there. It's one of those shows that I'm happy they're around. I just don't want to have to see it ever again.
You've almost
Well,
brought
I
her
will
up.
also say that compared to many new musicals that we see, at least it had, some lovely little ditties and melodies in it, as opposed to, can we move on to Fun Home?
Caption. My dad and I both grew up in the same small Pennsylvania town. And he was gay, and I was gay, and he killed himself. And I became a lesbian cartoonist.
Fun Home was praised to the skies by your colleague,
Well,
Ben Brantley,
most
right?
critics were over the moon.
Right, but you...
I wasn't.
Well, you,
Oh,
you,
really?
you find it over.
I
You find
was.
Fun Home overrated. Well, wait a minute. You can jump in and toot the horn for Fun Home, but Charles, kill
Well,
it
you
first.
can start by tooting the horn.
No, no, no.
No, I'm not.
Tear it down.
I didn't think it was a... Michael, really. I did not think it was by any means a bad musical. I thought it was a nice little off-Broadway sort of chamber piece. I didn't think the storytelling was very good. You complain about the structure of Gentleman's
I
Guide.
agree.
Although it's based
This-
on a wonderful graphic novel.
Yes,
I could
indeed.
not finish it.
Oh, you
the
couldn't?
graphic novel.
Oh, I quite liked it,
I
well.
just,
What's it about?
Well, it's about, well, it's sort of twin stories. A young woman who, discovers she's lesbian. It's her coming out story contrasted with her father's sort of closing down story.
And he's coming out, not
well-
to give anything away, no, but
Told in
he's
the
gay.
first scene that,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the father
Yeah.
is gay also, although has been in the closet all her
Yeah.
childhood, and the ironies of the two movements crossing each other, her becoming an adult and accepting herself, and his basically not, and I won't say what happens
Right,
at the end,
right.
is the engine of the story.
Yeah.
And you liked it.
I liked it a great deal, and it's interesting you talked about Gentleman's Guide and the ditties and the nice music compared to Fun Home, which has a score by Janine Tesori, who's, I don't know if she's your taste in general or not. I've always liked her music. It's not pretty, exactly. That's not what the function of music is in that show. But in a show like Gentleman's Guide, where being an operetta, the music has to carry a lot, I would like to have seen something a little more full-bodied and greater than a ditty. More.
Well, I don't think they were only ditties, but
I like
I would
ditties.
like,
had no
I would
problem with
like,
ditties.
I just wanted stronger music from Fun Home. I mean, I think when the best songs in the show were pastiche versions of Partridge Family and, Jackson 5 songs.
It's true, that was quite fabulous.
I mean, there's some beautiful, interstitial music,
Yuck.
but I didn't really think that and also I had a problem with the structure. It's a very diffuse show. What did you think?
No, I
Your sense
agree,
of-
actually. I liked it, but I didn't love it. There's too much cuteness with the kids. It leans very heavily on cuteness. It's really interesting for a show that aims to be a serious show. I have a problem with. There were too many kids on stage this fall.
So
That's another-
Shakespeare, Sondheim,
I know.
and children. I would say the best musical, Charles, that I've seen all season is After Midnight, which is the Duke Ellington review. It's not a book musical, but the songs are great, fantastic dancing. It's very elegantly staged and produced. You seem to enjoy it.
Oh, I loved it. And I think the one thing you didn't mention is the music. I mean, the musicianship.
Oh, yeah.
on
Wynton
stage
Marsalis's jazz band.
is completely phenomenal. I was, enthralled just listening. I could have just watched the band play for 2 hours.
Yeah, I remember I did detect in your review, you thought, okay, the dancing's good, but I'd rather just hear the band.
Well, with all this tap stuff.
When the bandstand moved downstage toward the audience, you just sort of, it was like this ocean wave of joy coming off the stage. It was a wonderful moment and expressive of what's great about that show.
Yeah, and you enjoyed it too?
Oh, I loved it. Loved it. It's a great show.
Yeah. And also, I like musicals. I like the Burt Bacharach musical as well. What's It All About? More and more, I'm coming to like musicals that don't have a story, that are just
Well, it
good
avoids
songs.
a problem, doesn't it?
It's right. There's no
not gonna
second
have
act problem when
Exactly.
there's no story.
You're not going to have book problems with a bookless musical.
But they're not as easy as you might think, or we'd have seen more successful reviews. And What's It All About really is extremely smart beneath the apparent ease of the just song after song. There's actually something going on that holds it together quite beautifully.
Yeah, well, did you like What's It All About, Elizabeth?
Not really.
Why not?
I just don't see the point of
Shakespeare,
it.
Bacharach.
No, actually, I love Bacharach. He's one of my.
But what I like so
one
much
of my
about this is that,
guys.
it's young kids who are reinterpreting these songs and making them contemporary, and so you're
Making
hearing
them contemporary how? Like how? Just because you add a guitar solo that is preposterous.
No, these songs are completely
Bacharach
taken
songs do
apart.
not.
I
No,
agree.
They're just. It's a joke. Total
Everything's
joke.
black and white with you.
Absolutely. I think it's good to be opinionated, and we'll shout it outside with, my glove, sir. And the whole hootenanny busker vibe drove me crazy, but I didn't feel they were trying to be hip.
We
mean afterward?
We got no. We're at who you can't improve on hootenanny, and the way you pronounce it, hootenanny.
I know, it
Waiting
sounds so
for a
much better.
guru.
Hootenanny.
Guru at the hootenanny.
All right, Jesse Green, but you're awfully easygoing critic these days. You seem to like everything.
No, I keep an average and make sure it's well below 2 stars.
Jesse Green from New York Magazine, Charles Isherwood from the New York Times, and Elisabeth Black and White Vincentelli from
Me, I'm just like a black and New York cookie.
That should be the name
That's
of your
according.
memoirs.
New
What
York
did you call
cookie.
New York what?
The New
You know,
York
the
cookie.
black and white cookie.
The black and white cookie.
I can't understand a thing you're saying. Cookie.
I don't know, it's all coming
I
out
should
today.
translate next time.
All right, thanks a
For
lot.
titles.
That's right. Thanks for being our guest on Theater Talk.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Eleanor Naylor Dana Charitable Trust, the Corey and Bob Donnelly Charitable Fund, the Noel Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, and the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you and good night.